Hello, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about prefill and decode. So these are two terms that are very commonly used in LLM inference, and we're going to build intuition as to what they are and why they're important. So to understand this, let's imagine that we have a ChatGPT query, right? And the query is, where is Stanford University located? So in LLM inference parlance, this will be called this is a prompt, and then this will go through what's called prefill. And then as we're generating tokens, like we generate Paulo and Alto, this is what's called decode. So prefill is like when you have your initial prompt, and then decode is as you're generating, okay? And one thing I want to call out is that when you do prefill, you're going to do a forward pass through your neural network. And the forward pass is going to be linear to how long your prompt is, okay? So in this example, you have 5 words. Again, words, tokens, around 5. And you're gonna basically run it through your model, and you're gonna generate the KV cache. And remember, this 4 represents the number of heads. It's gonna be a constant. But this like 5 number is going to be correspondent to the length of your prefix. And remember, when we go through a transformer, there's like a lot of matmols we're doing. We're like doing the projection matmol, we're doing the attention matmols, we're doing the output projection matmols. So there's a lot of matmols. And here we have length 5, but if you think about, for example, a lot of agents where we're taking context from files, maybe we're summarizing an entire book, this could be really large, okay? And so one thing to take away is that oftentimes prefill is what is called compute bound, meaning when we're doing this, we're really saturating all of the compute in our GPUs. Okay, and so after prefill, we have the KV cache. And this KV cache flows into decode. So there's a little bit of technicality here where I think technically maybe prefill you can predict the first token, but let's ignore that for now. In terms of cleanliness, let's assume that we do decode after the prefill. So for decode, no longer is the input like a very long sequence. It's actually just size 1 if you have no batching. And what this input is going to do is it's going to go through your network, and then it's going to look up the KV cache, right? So it's going to use these as part of the next token prediction to predict Paulo, and then eventually Alto. And notice that like as you're doing decode, you're also adding on to the KV cache, but you're just adding a single entry each time. And because decode, you're running through the network, but you don't actually have a very big tensor that's flowing through. You are generally memory bound. Now, what do I mean by memory bound? So it's useful to think about GPU memory hierarchies. So GPUs have generally very large HBM. So for example, for an H100, you might have 80 to 100 gigs of HBM. But then you have these caches, similar to CPU architectures. You have L2, L1, registers, and execution units. And these get smaller and smaller as you go. So generally, when you do something like a matrix multiplication between a weight and let's say your like intermediate hidden dimension tensors, you're going to take the weights from HBM, move them to your execution units, do your matmol, and then when you hit the next matmol, you're going to do the same thing over and over and over again. And if you have really big intermediate tensors, this is fine because your latency is going to be dominated by the actual compute and not moving of the weights from HBM to your execution units. However, in contrast, during decode, that is not true, right? Because these tensors are so small, the compute is going to be really fast. So you're going to be dominated by this time of moving the weights from HBM to your execution units and back and forth and back and forth. So if you have one takeaway, it's that In practice, what happens is in these inference engines, we try and separate prefill and decode. We also try clever batching techniques, which we'll talk about in future videos. But hopefully you can walk away with this, after this video, with an understanding of prefill is processing prompt and decode is doing the next token prediction over and over and over again. Okay, see you next one.